Hello there, and welcome to the Night Science Facts channel. Tonight, we'll be drifting gently into the quiet, mysterious, and endlessly fascinating world of the octopus, one of the most remarkable creatures that has ever moved through the waters of this planet. You've chosen a wonderful evening to settle in and learn. Perhaps the day has been long. Perhaps your mind is still turning over small things, little worries or passing thoughts. That's perfectly all right. We're going to let all of that soften now, like light fading at the edge of the horizon. There is nothing you need to do tonight except listen, breathe, and let these gentle facts wash over you like the slow movement of water across the ocean floor. Take a moment, if you'd like, to adjust your pillow or blanket. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands rest softly wherever they've fallen. There is no rush here. There never is on this channel. Tonight, we'll travel to some of the most beautiful and remote places on Earth. Coral reefs glowing in filtered sunlight, the dark, silent depths of the deep sea, rocky tide pools along foggy coastlines, and the warm, shallow lagoons of the Pacific. In all of these places, the octopus is there, living its quiet, curious, extraordinary life. We have more than 100 gentle facts waiting for you tonight. Each one is a small window into a world that most people never see. A world of color and shadow, of intelligence and instinct, of softness and stillness. A world that has been evolving for over 500 million years, long before any human being ever walked the earth. So let your breathing slow, let your thoughts drift. Let tonight be a quiet journey, and let's begin. The octopus, in its earliest recognizable form, has existed on this planet for an extraordinarily long time. Fossil evidence suggests that cephalopods, the group of animals to which octopuses belong, first appeared in the oceans more than 500 million years ago, during a period geologists call the Cambrian era. The world at that time was almost unrecognizable. The continents had not yet taken their familiar shapes. The seas were warm and shallow in many places, and life was just beginning its great experimental flowering. Among the creatures that emerged during this time were the first soft-bodied, tentacled ancestors of the modern octopus. These ancient animals were not exactly like the octopuses we know today. Many early cephalopods had shells, spiraling, chambered structures that helped them float and move through the water column. Over hundreds of millions of years, some lineages lost their shells entirely, evolving into the soft, boneless forms we recognize today. It is a deeply calming thought that the octopus has been here for so long, quietly adapting, quietly surviving through ice ages and mass extinctions and the slow rearrangement of continents. Long before there were human eyes to observe it, the octopus was already exploring the seafloor with its curious arms. The word octopus comes from the ancient Greek words octo, meaning 8, and pous, meaning foot. So, in its most literal translation, an octopus is simply an 8-footed creature. Greek and Roman naturalists were among the first to write about the octopus in careful observational detail, noting its many arms, its curious intelligence, and its ability to change appearance. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, writing more than 2,000 years ago, devoted considerable attention to the octopus in his great work on animals. He noted that the octopus was clever, that it could change color, and that it used its arms with remarkable coordination. He was not entirely wrong and not entirely right, but the fact that he was thinking carefully about octopuses in the 4th century BCE tells us something important. Even then, these animals had a way of capturing human attention. Across many other ancient cultures, in Japan, in the Mediterranean, in Polynesia, the octopus appeared in stories, artwork, and mythology. It was not merely a source of food or fear. It was a figure of fascination, a creature that seemed to exist at the edge of what the natural world was supposed to be. This fact often surprises people. The octopus is a mollusk. It belongs to the same great phylum as clams, oysters, snails, and slugs. When we think of mollusks, we often think of shells, of slow movement, of simplicity. And yet, here is the octopus. Soft, intelligent, fast, and extraordinarily complex, sitting comfortably within that same category. The key difference between most mollusks and the octopus is that octopuses, over their long evolutionary history, largely abandoned the protective shell that their ancestors relied upon. What they lost in physical armor, they more than made up for in flexibility, camouflage, and neurological sophistication. It is a beautiful example of how evolution does not follow a single path. The same basic body plan, the mollusk, can give rise to the humble garden snail and the breathtaking octopus. Life finds its way through different doors. In the gentle tradition of language and science, there has been a long, soft debate about the proper plural of the word octopus. Some say octopi, borrowing from the Latin convention of pluralizing words ending in us. Others say octopuses, following standard English rules. A smaller group insists on octopodes, honoring the Greek origin of the word. Most linguists and biologists today simply use octopuses. It is the most natural, the most straightforward, and the one that flows most easily in conversation. But there is something charming about this debate. It reminds us that even the names we give to living things carry history, layers of language, culture, and time. Every time we say the word octopus, we are, in a small way, reaching back across centuries to the Greek scholars who first tried to put words to something wonderful. When we say octopus, we are really speaking of a large and diverse family. Scientists have described more than 300 distinct species of octopus, and researchers suspect there may be many more awaiting discovery, particularly in the deep sea. These species range enormously in size, behavior, and habitat. Some octopuses are small enough to curl up in the palm of your hand. Others, like the giant Pacific octopus, can grow arm spans of more than 4 meters. Some live in the sunlit shallows of tropical reefs. Others inhabit the cold, dark, crushing pressures of the deep ocean. Some are brilliantly colored. Others are muted and subtle, nearly invisible against the sand. This diversity is a kind of quiet abundance. The ocean is not home to just one kind of octopus, but to hundreds of variations on a theme, each one shaped by its particular environment, each one a unique solution to the shared challenge of surviving in the sea. One of the most distinctive things about the octopus is that it has no skeleton, not a single bone. Its body is entirely soft, composed of muscle, skin, and organ tissue. This is what makes it so extraordinarily flexible. An octopus can squeeze its entire body through any opening large enough to accommodate its hard beak, which is typically the size of a small coin. This bonelessness is both a vulnerability and a superpower. Without a rigid structure, the octopus cannot rely on strength the way a crab or a fish might. Instead, it has evolved other strategies: speed, camouflage, intelligence, and the remarkable muscular coordination of its arms to navigate and survive. Watching an octopus move through a tight crevice in a rock, its body compressing and reshaping with effortless fluidity, is one of the more meditative spectacles in all of nature. There is a kind of graceful surrender in it, a complete willingness to conform to the shape of the world around it. The octopus has not one, not two, but 3 hearts. 2 of these, called branchial hearts, sit beside the gills and work specifically to pump blood through the gill tissue, where it picks up oxygen from the water. The 3rd heart, the systemic heart, then pumps this oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. This triple heart system is one of the reasons octopuses are such capable, active animals. Their bodies can deliver oxygen efficiently even during strenuous activity, fleeing a predator, wrestling with prey, or rapidly changing color. There is a gentle poetry in having 3 hearts. It is as though the octopus has been given extra capacity for the business of being alive. The blood of an octopus is not red, as ours is. It is blue, a cool, quiet, ocean-colored blue. This distinctive color comes from a copper-containing molecule called hemocyanin, which octopuses use to transport oxygen through their bodies instead of the iron-based hemoglobin found in human blood. Hemocyanin is less efficient at carrying oxygen than hemoglobin under warm conditions, but it works very well in cold water and at low oxygen concentrations. Since many octopuses live in cold or deep environments, this adaptation suits them well. Blue blood. It sounds like something from a fairy tale, but it is simply one of nature's many quiet variations on the same basic theme. The need to carry life-giving oxygen from one part of the body to another. A common misconception is that octopuses have tentacles. Strictly speaking, they do not. They have arms. The distinction is subtle but meaningful. Tentacles, as found in squid and cuttlefish, are longer, thinner appendages with suckers only near the tips. An octopus's arms are lined with suckers all the way along their length and are considered anatomically distinct. Each arm of an octopus contains its own nerve clusters, giving it a remarkable degree of autonomy. An octopus arm can taste, touch, and even make simple decisions on its own without consulting the central brain. In a very real sense, each arm has a small mind of its own. This distributed intelligence, this quietness spread across 8 separate limbs, is one of the features that makes the octopus so neurologically unique among animals. Speaking of those arm-based nerve clusters, approximately 2/3 of all the neurons in an octopus's body are located not in its central brain, but in its 8 arms. The central brain sits in a ring around the esophagus, a compact, donut-shaped structure tucked inside the head. But most of the real neural work happens elsewhere. This means that when an octopus reaches an arm into a crevice to search for food, it is not sending detailed instructions from the brain to the arm. Instead, the arm is doing much of the sensing and responding on its own, reporting back to the central brain only in broad strokes. Scientists find this architecture deeply interesting because it challenges our conventional idea of what a brain is and where intelligence lives. For the octopus, intelligence is not centralized. It is distributed, spread through the body, like starlight through fog. We just mentioned it briefly, but it is worth lingering on. The central brain of an octopus is literally shaped like a ring or donut, because the animal's esophagus, the tube that carries food from the mouth to the stomach, passes directly through the middle of it. This unusual arrangement means that octopuses must be careful about what they eat. If they swallow something too large, it could physically damage their brain. This is thought to be one of the reasons octopuses tend to tear their food into small pieces before eating it, rather than swallowing large chunks. It is a quietly remarkable anatomical quirk, a brain with a hole through the middle, shaped by millions of years of incremental evolution into something that works perfectly well, if unconventionally. The eyes of an octopus are among the most sophisticated in the animal kingdom. They are large relative to body size, capable of forming sharp images, and structurally quite different from human eyes, despite producing similar results. One of the most interesting features of octopus eyes is that they evolved completely independently from vertebrate eyes. Human eyes and octopus eyes arrived at similar designs through entirely separate evolutionary pathways, a phenomenon scientists call convergent evolution. It is a reminder that some solutions to biological problems are so effective that life discovers them more than once. Octopus eyes also have a distinctive horizontal, slit-shaped pupil, which researchers believe helps the animal judge distance accurately and maintain a stable horizon reference, even as its body tilts and moves through the water. This pupil shape is thought to be particularly useful in an animal that needs to precisely gauge how far away prey or predators might be. Here is one of the quieter paradoxes of the natural world. The octopus, one of the most accomplished color changers in all of nature, appears to be colorblind. The photoreceptors in the octopus eye contain only a single type of light-sensitive pigment, which typically means the animal cannot distinguish between colors the way humans or other animals with multiple pigment types can. And yet, octopuses routinely produce extraordinarily accurate color matches when camouflaging themselves against their backgrounds, matching the subtle pinks of coral, the mottled greys of rocky seafloor, the warm tans of sandy shallows. How do they do this? Scientists have proposed several fascinating ideas. One is that the unusual shape of the octopus pupil, combined with the way light enters the eye at different angles, may allow a single pigment type to function as a primitive form of color detection, a phenomenon called chromatic aberration. Another idea is that the skin itself contains photoreceptors that can sense light directly, bypassing the eyes entirely. The mystery is not fully solved, and there is something beautiful in that. The octopus keeping its secrets, even as we watch it in astonishment. The suckers that line each octopus arm are not just for gripping. They are also sensory organs, capable of detecting chemicals in the water and in whatever surfaces the octopus touches. In effect, an octopus can taste with its arms. Each sucker contains thousands of chemoreceptors and mechanoreceptors, specialized cells that respond to chemical signals and physical pressure. When an octopus explores a crevice or handles a crab, it is simultaneously feeling, tasting, and smelling its environment through hundreds or thousands of individual sensors. This richness of sensory experience is difficult for us to fully imagine. Our own sense of touch is largely confined to pressure and temperature. For an octopus, every touch is also a taste. Every surface a complex chemical story waiting to be read. Hidden at the center of the octopus, where all 8 arms converge, is the one hard part of its entire body. A sharp, curved beak made of chitin, the same tough material found in insect exoskeletons. This beak resembles the beak of a parrot in its basic shape, and it is the octopus's primary tool for feeding. The beak can crack open crab shells, pierce through the bodies of fish, and drill neatly into the shells of clams and snails. It is small but remarkably powerful, relative to the octopus's body size, capable of exerting considerable crushing force. It is strangely satisfying to know that within all that softness, all that gentle, fluid, flowing body, there is one small, hard point of decisiveness, a beak tucked quietly at the center. If there is one thing the octopus is universally celebrated for, it is its ability to disappear. An octopus at rest on the seafloor can become so perfectly matched to its surroundings, in color, texture, and pattern, that it seems simply to vanish. Even experienced divers, knowing an octopus is present, can lose sight of it completely. This camouflage is not a slow, passive process. An octopus can completely transform its appearance in less than 1 second, switching from one complex pattern to another as conditions change. It is one of the fastest and most sophisticated appearance change systems in the animal kingdom. The ability serves multiple purposes: hiding from predators, ambushing prey, and communicating with other octopuses. It is a language written in light and color and texture, spoken silently across the skin. The secret behind the octopus's color-changing ability lies in specialized cells called chromatophores, which are distributed across the skin in dense, overlapping layers. Each chromatophore is a tiny elastic sac filled with pigment: yellow, orange, red, brown, or black, and controlled by a ring of tiny muscles. When those muscles contract, the sac expands, spreading its color across a larger area of skin. When the muscles relax, the sac shrinks and the color fades. By controlling thousands of these cells simultaneously, the octopus can create extraordinarily complex patterns, gradients, and textures across its entire body surface. Beneath the chromatophores lie additional cells called iridophores and leucophores, which reflect and scatter light in different ways, adding iridescent shimmer and bright white highlights to the color display. The full effect is like a living tapestry, woven and rewoven in real time. Color change is only part of the story. Octopuses can also change the physical texture of their skin, from smooth and flat to covered in lumps, bumps, ridges, and spiky protrusions called papillae. These papillae can appear and disappear in milliseconds, controlled by muscles just beneath the skin surface. This texture change ability allows the octopus to mimic not just the color, but the three-dimensional appearance of its surroundings. The rough, irregular surface of coral, the pebbly texture of sand, the lumpy profile of encrusted rock. The result is a camouflage so thorough that it fools not just the eye, but the entire visual system. Researchers studying octopus skin texture have published papers marveling at the precision of this control. The ability to activate papillae in specific patterns, to different heights, in different combinations, all without any conscious deliberation we can detect. The octopus does this as naturally as we shift our weight when standing still. Despite the endless variety of environments octopuses inhabit, researchers have noticed that their camouflage tends to fall into roughly 3 broad categories, which scientists have named uniform, mottled, and disruptive. Uniform camouflage involves a single, even color across the whole body, useful for blending into sandy or uniformly colored backgrounds. Mottled camouflage uses patches of 2 or more colors in irregular arrangements, useful for backgrounds with moderate complexity. Disruptive camouflage employs bold, high-contrast patterns that break up the outline of the body, making it harder for a predator to recognize the octopus as an animal at all. The octopus apparently selects among these categories based on what its visual system perceives in the surrounding environment, making the choice in an instant and executing it with extraordinary precision. It is a quiet kind of brilliance, a fast, accurate system operating largely below the level of conscious thought. Some octopus species take camouflage to a further extreme. Rather than blending into the background, they mimic the appearance of other animals altogether. The mimic octopus, found in tropical Indo-Pacific waters, is perhaps the most famous example. This species can alter its body shape, color, and movement to resemble a variety of different animals: flatfish, lionfish, sea snakes, and others. By mimicking animals that are venomous or otherwise dangerous to predators, the mimic octopus reduces its own risk of being attacked. What makes this particularly remarkable is that the octopus apparently selects its mimic based on context, choosing, for instance, to mimic the venomous flatfish when threatened by a type of fish that fears flatfish, rather than using a single default disguise. Whether this constitutes deliberate decision-making in the way humans would understand it remains an open and quietly fascinating question. Among all animals without backbones, the invertebrates, which make up the vast majority of animal species on Earth, the octopus is generally considered to be the most cognitively sophisticated. This is a remarkable distinction in a group that includes insects, spiders, crabs, and thousands of other complex animals. Evidence for octopus intelligence comes from many directions. They can solve puzzles, navigate mazes, use tools, learn by watching others, distinguish individual humans, and remember complex information over extended periods. Their behavior in the wild and in laboratory settings consistently reveals a level of flexible, adaptive thinking that sets them apart. What makes this especially interesting is that octopus intelligence evolved completely independently from vertebrate intelligence. The common ancestor of octopuses and humans, some ancient marine worm-like creature, had nothing resembling a complex brain. Sophisticated cognition evolved separately in the cephalopod lineage, along an entirely different path, arriving at some similar destinations through entirely different means. One of the most cited examples of octopus intelligence, and one of the most quietly charming, is their ability to open jars. In both laboratory experiments and aquarium settings, octopuses have been shown to unscrew the lids of glass jars to retrieve food inside. This requires several cognitive steps: recognizing that there is something desirable inside the container, understanding that the lid is separate from the jar and can be removed, and then applying the correct rotational force in the right direction to unscrew it. Some octopuses learn this task quickly, and many appear to enjoy the challenge. In aquarium environments, keepers sometimes give octopuses jars with lids as enrichment activities, a way of keeping intellectually active animals engaged and stimulated. Watching an octopus methodically work at a jar, trying different approaches, is a little window into a mind that is genuinely curious about the world. One of the more striking demonstrations of octopus intelligence is their apparent ability to recognize and remember specific individual humans. Studies and numerous aquarium observations have documented octopuses behaving differently toward different people, being calm and curious with familiar, trusted individuals, and cautious or even mildly defensive towards strangers. In one well-known aquarium study, an octopus consistently directed mild defensive behavior, such as squirting jets of water, at one particular keeper who had bothered it during feeding while remaining calm with all other keepers. This behavior persisted even when the targeted keeper dressed differently, suggesting the octopus was recognizing something more than just clothing. Face recognition in a creature so evolutionarily distant from us is a quietly astonishing thing. It suggests that the octopus is paying close attention to the social world around it, even in an environment entirely foreign to its natural habitat. Tool use is often cited as a hallmark of advanced cognition, and octopuses have been observed doing it in the wild. The most famous example involves the veined octopus of the Indo-Pacific, which collects discarded coconut shell halves from the seafloor, carries them for considerable distances, and then assembles them into a shelter. What makes this particularly interesting is that carrying the shells provides no immediate benefit. The octopus must transport them before they become useful. This kind of deferred benefit, planning ahead for a future payoff, is associated with higher order cognition in animal behavior research. Octopuses have also been observed collecting and arranging stones and shells around the entrances to their dens, and selectively choosing specific objects for their shelters based on size and shape. Whether these behaviors constitute tool use in the strict scientific sense is sometimes debated, but they undeniably reflect a kind of purposeful, object-oriented intelligence. Octopuses are capable of observational learning new skills or behaviors by watching other octopuses perform them, rather than discovering everything independently through trial and error. This was demonstrated in laboratory experiments where naive octopuses were allowed to watch trained individuals solve a specific puzzle, and then showed faster learning when given the same puzzle themselves. This capacity for social learning is interesting precisely because octopuses are solitary animals. They do not live in groups or form long-term social bonds, and for much of their lives, they interact with other octopuses only to mate. And yet, they can still learn from watching, still benefit from observing another individual's experience. It is a reminder that intelligence can exist in many forms, not all of them social. The octopus carries its learning quietly, alone. Perhaps one of the most endearing discoveries about octopus behavior is that they appear to play. Play behavior, doing something apparently for its own sake, with no immediate survival purpose, is considered an indicator of cognitive sophistication in animals, and it has been documented in octopuses in both wild and captive settings. Captive octopuses have been observed repeatedly releasing objects into a current, and then catching them as they drift back, a behavior with no apparent purpose beyond the doing of it. They have been observed interacting with novel objects in ways that suggest exploration and curiosity, rather than predatory or defensive motivation. There is something deeply touching about this. An octopus, alone in its tank or its den in the reef, engaged in what can only be described as play. A brief, quiet moment of something that might, if we are willing to use the word gently, be called enjoyment. Research and long-term observation have established that individual octopuses have distinct, consistent personalities, stable individual differences in behavior that persist across time and context. Some octopuses are bold and exploratory, readily approaching new objects and situations. Others are shy and cautious, preferring to withdraw and observe before engaging. In a landmark study, researchers at the Seattle Aquarium assigned standardized personality scores to individual octopuses based on their responses to novel situations, and found these scores to be both stable over time and distinct between individuals. The octopuses were not simply responding randomly or identically. They each had their own characteristic way of meeting the world. Personality, individuality, distinctness. These qualities feel deeply personal, deeply animal. To know that an octopus has them reminds us that the interior of another creature's experience may be richer than we typically assume. Aquariums around the world have stories of octopuses escaping from their tanks in the night. Octopuses are motivated, capable, and determined escape artists. They squeeze through the smallest gaps, push aside poorly secured lids, and navigate through complex aquarium plumbing systems to explore adjacent tanks. The famous case of Inky the octopus in New Zealand, who escaped from his tank, travelled across the floor of the aquarium, found a drain pipe, and made his way back to the ocean, captured worldwide attention and affection when it was reported in 2016. Whether the story is precisely as told, it reflects something true about octopus behavior. Given an opportunity, they will explore it. This drive to escape, to explore, to test boundaries. It speaks to a kind of restless curiosity that feels recognizable, even from across the vast evolutionary distance between our two kinds of life. Many octopus species are primarily active at night, spending the daylight hours hidden in their dens and venturing out to hunt after dark. This nocturnal lifestyle reduces their exposure to visual predators, fish and other animals that rely heavily on sight, and suits their own sensory capabilities, which include excellent vision in low light. The nighttime ocean, to a human, can feel like a vast and disorienting darkness. But to an octopus, it is simply home, a familiar landscape, navigated by touch and taste, and whatever light the moon and bioluminescent creatures provide. There is something companionable about knowing that as you drift towards sleep tonight, somewhere in the dark ocean, an octopus is just beginning its day, slipping out of its den, arms trailing, exploring the quiet reef in the soft dark. Octopuses are den-dwelling animals. They claim a home, a crevice in a rock, a hollow in coral, a space beneath a ledge, or even a discarded human object like a bottle or tin can. And they maintain it with considerable care. They often arrange stones, shells, and other objects around the entrance, creating a barrier that protects them while they rest. The area around an active octopus den is often recognizable to divers because of this debris field. A scattering of crab shells, empty mollusks, and arranged rocks that marks the site of regular activity. This discard pile has been called an octopus garden in popular literature, a name that captures its peculiar domestic quality. The den is sanctuary. It is where the octopus rests, digests its food, and, if female, lays and guards its eggs. In a creature with no fixed social group, no territory in the conventional sense, no lasting relationships, the den is the one stable center of a mobile, solitary life. The octopus is a predator, and a very effective one. It feeds primarily on crabs, clams, snails, fish, and other marine creatures, hunting them with a combination of patience, speed, and intelligence that few animals in the sea can match. A hunting octopus may stalk its prey slowly and carefully, using its camouflage to approach undetected before lunging with sudden precision. Or it may wait motionlessly at the entrance to its den, arms spread slightly, until an unsuspecting crab walks within reach. Or it may actively explore a reef, reaching into every crevice and crack in search of hidden prey. The flexibility of these strategies, the ability to switch between patient ambush and active pursuit depending on circumstances, reflects the same adaptability that characterizes all octopus behavior. There is no single way to be an octopus. There are only the many ways that work. All octopuses are venomous. Each species possesses salivary glands that produce venom, which the octopus delivers through its bite, either by biting directly through the prey's body or by drilling a neat hole through a shell and injecting the venom inside. In most octopus species, the venom is not dangerous to humans. It might cause localized pain and mild swelling, similar to a bee sting, but nothing more serious. The venom is primarily adapted to immobilize crustaceans and other invertebrates, which respond differently to its components than mammals do. There is one notable exception, the blue-ringed octopus, which we will visit later in this journey. But for the vast majority of octopus species, their venom is just one quiet tool among many, used efficiently, without excess, for the business of feeding. When an octopus encounters a clam or oyster, it has several methods for getting inside. It may use its arms to physically pry the shells apart, applying sustained muscular force until the clam's adductor muscle fatigues and the shell opens. This can take time, but the octopus is patient. Alternatively, and perhaps more elegantly, it can drill a small, neat hole through the shell using its radula, a tongue-like ribbon of tiny teeth combined with a softening chemical secretion. Through this hole, it injects venom to paralyze the soft body inside, and then extracts the meat at its leisure. The combination of brute strength, chemical tools, and patient strategy in something as simple as opening a clam is a small portrait of what makes the octopus remarkable. Multiple solutions applied as needed with quiet competence. Octopuses are capable of carrying prey items while moving through the water or across the seafloor, holding a crab or clam in their arms while using the remaining arms for locomotion. This requires coordination and multitasking that speaks to the distributed intelligence of the arm system. In some observations, octopuses have been seen carrying prey back to their dens to eat in safety rather than consuming it on the spot. The den provides protection from scavengers and competing predators that might otherwise steal a meal. There is something almost domestic about an octopus carrying its catch home through the evening reef, arms full of the day's hunting, heading back to the familiar shelter of its den. Some octopuses have been observed caching food, storing prey items in or near their dens for later consumption. This food caching behavior requires a degree of forward planning. The octopus must anticipate a future need and take action now to meet it. Whether octopuses truly plan ahead in the way that ravens or squirrels do when they cache food is not fully established. But the behavior itself, setting something aside for later, is intriguing evidence of a cognitive capacity that extends beyond the immediate present. The ocean floor around an octopus's den, with its scattered shells and arranged stones, and perhaps a stored crab or two, begins to feel less like a random scattering, and more like a carefully maintained household. When an octopus is threatened, one of its most famous responses is to release a cloud of dark ink into the water. This ink, produced in a specialized ink sac, is ejected through a funnel near the mantle and quickly disperses into a murky cloud that temporarily obscures the octopus from its attacker's view. But the ink does more than just create visual confusion. It contains a chemical called tyrosinase, which can temporarily dull the predator's sense of smell and taste, interfering with its ability to track the octopus by chemical signals after the visual obscurement clears. As the ink cloud spreads, the octopus typically jets rapidly away in the opposite direction, using its siphon to propel itself through the water at speed. By the time the cloud dissipates, the octopus is usually gone, hidden in a new location, still as stone, waiting for the danger to pass. The octopus has two primary modes of locomotion: crawling along the seafloor on its arms and jet propulsion through the water. Jet propulsion works by drawing water into the mantle cavity and then expelling it forcefully through a narrow muscular tube called the funnel or siphon. This jet of water propels the octopus backward at considerable speed. Some species can reach bursts of up to 25 miles per hour, though such speeds are not sustainable for long. The funnel can be aimed in different directions, giving the octopus some control over its trajectory. Jet propulsion is primarily a defense mechanism, a way of rapidly escaping from threats, rather than an everyday mode of travel. For day-to-day movement, most octopuses prefer the more graceful, quiet crawl of their arms across the seafloor. Some octopus species can voluntarily shed an arm, a process called autotomy, as a defense mechanism. If a predator grabs an arm, the octopus can detach it at a specific point, leaving the severed arm behind to distract the predator while the rest of the octopus escapes. The shed arm continues to move and writhe after detachment, which can confuse or hold a predator's attention for crucial seconds. Meanwhile, the octopus regrows the missing arm over the following weeks, a process of regeneration that is quiet, unhurried, and remarkably complete. The ability to give up a part of oneself in order to preserve the whole, and then to grow it back, patiently, over time, is one of nature's more philosophically interesting adaptations. Among the 300 or so species of octopus, one stands apart for the potency of its venom. The blue-ringed octopus, a small, beautiful animal found in tide pools and shallow reefs across the Pacific and Indian Oceans, carries a venom so powerful that a single bite can be fatal to a human being. The venom contains a toxin called tetrodotoxin, which blocks nerve signals to muscles, causing rapid paralysis. There is no antidote. The only treatment is mechanical ventilation to keep the victim breathing until the toxin clears the system, a process that can take many hours. Despite this fearsome capacity, the blue-ringed octopus is not an aggressive animal. It is small, typically no larger than a golf ball, shy, and only bites when handled or cornered. Its brilliant blue rings, which flash and pulse when the animal is threatened, serve as a warning display, a quiet but unmistakable signal to any creature paying attention. I am here. I am dangerous. Please give me space. Because of their combination of defenses, ink, jet propulsion, camouflage, venom, and autotomy, adult octopuses are relatively difficult prey for most ocean predators. Many animals that encounter an octopus once and experience its defenses firsthand seem to learn quickly to avoid them. This learned avoidance is a kind of quiet protection, accumulated through interactions, rather than physical armor. The octopus does not need to be invulnerable. It needs only to be unpleasant enough to encounter that most predators choose easier prey. Even so, octopuses do have natural predators. moray eels, large sharks, dolphins, certain seabirds, and other octopuses have all been documented preying on them. Life in the ocean is never entirely safe for any creature. The reproductive cycle of many octopus species carries a kind of quiet sadness that makes it one of the more poignant stories in all of animal biology. Most octopus species reproduce only once in their lifetime, and for the female, reproduction is intimately connected with death. After mating, the female finds a suitable den, lays her eggs, sometimes tens of thousands of them, and then devotes the remainder of her life entirely to guarding them. During this brooding period, which can last weeks or months, depending on the species, she does not eat. She cleans the eggs constantly with her arms, aerates them with jets of water from her siphon, and never leaves them unguarded. By the time the eggs hatch, the female is typically near death, having consumed her own body tissues for energy during the long fast. Most females die shortly after their eggs hatch, never seeing their offspring grow. It is a story of complete devotion, of a life given entirely over to the next generation, told in the quiet language of biology. The number of eggs a female octopus lays varies enormously by species. Small species may lay a few hundred. Larger ones can lay tens or even hundreds of thousands. The giant Pacific octopus can produce up to 100,000 eggs, which the female strings in grape-like clusters from the ceiling of her den. Each egg is tiny, about the size of a grain of rice. Each one is tended with the same careful attention as all the others. The female moves among the strings of eggs constantly, touching and cleaning and aerating in a slow, repetitive act of care that lasts for months. Of all those thousands of eggs, only a small fraction will survive to adulthood. The ocean is full of things that eat small, newly hatched octopuses. But this is nature's arithmetic, compensating for high mortality with high reproduction, the odds balanced across generations. In 2007, researchers using a deep-sea, remotely operated vehicle in Monterey Canyon, California, discovered a female deep-sea octopus of the species Granelodon boropacifica, guarding a cluster of eggs on a rocky ledge at about 1,400 meters depth. Over the following years, researchers returned to the same spot repeatedly, and each time the female was still there, still guarding her eggs in the cold and darkness of the deep ocean floor. She was first observed in April 2007. Her eggs hatched in September 2011. That is a brooding period of approximately 4.5 years, the longest known incubation period of any animal on Earth. For 4.5 years, that octopus sat in the cold dark, cleaning and tending her eggs, not eating, giving everything. By the time the eggs hatched, the researchers believed she too was dying. It is one of the most extraordinary stories of parental devotion in all of known biology. The brevity of life is not limited to females. Male octopuses too often die within a few months of mating. In many species, the male begins to show signs of physiological decline, reduced coordination, inability to hunt, disorientation, not long after reproducing. This senescence, as it is called, appears to be a programmed part of the octopus life cycle, a biological shutting down that follows reproduction. In some species, the male's body has even been observed to be consumed by bacteria and decomposition while the animal is still alive, in a process that is mercifully gradual. Why would evolution select for such rapid post-reproductive death? One theory suggests It reduces competition for food between parents and offspring. Another suggests it frees up resources in the ecosystem. Whatever the reason, the octopus lives briefly and completely, and then is gone. Despite their complexity, intelligence, and the extraordinary amount of biological information packed into their small bodies, most octopuses live for only 1 to 3 years. Even the giant Pacific octopus, the largest octopus species, capable of reaching arm spans of 4 meters, typically lives no more than 3 to 5 years. This is one of the deeper puzzles of octopus biology. Intelligence, in most animal lineages, is associated with longer lifespans. Primates, elephants, dolphins, and crows all live for decades. The cognitive investment required to develop a sophisticated brain seems, in most cases, to require a long life to justify it. The octopus breaks this pattern. It packs what appears to be genuine intelligence, tool use, play, and personality into a life that lasts barely longer than a single winter and spring and summer and fall. It learns quickly, experiences much, and then is gone. There is something almost unbearably tender in that. When octopus eggs hatch, the tiny animals that emerge are not miniature versions of their parents. They are called paralarvae, small, translucent creatures that, in many species, drift with the ocean plankton for weeks or months before settling to the seafloor and beginning life as benthic, bottom-dwelling animals. During this planktonic phase, the paralarvae are extraordinarily vulnerable. Currents carry them across vast distances. Predators consume them in vast numbers. Most will not survive to adulthood, but those that do, those few survivors of the long, drifting, dangerous early life, settle eventually onto a reef or sandy bottom, begin hunting, find a den, and start the brief, complete, remarkable lives that await them. The giant Pacific octopus, Enteroctopus duflani, is the largest known octopus species in the world. Average adults have an arm span of roughly 3 to 5 meters and weigh between 10 and 50 kilograms, though occasional individuals are larger. The largest reliably recorded specimen had an arm span of nearly 9 meters. These animals are found throughout the North Pacific Ocean, in the coastal waters of Japan, Alaska, British Columbia, and the Pacific Northwest of the United States. Typically at depths ranging from the intertidal zone to several hundred meters. Despite their impressive size, giant Pacific octopuses are, by most accounts, gentle and curious animals. Divers who have spent time with them in their natural habitat often describe the encounters as profound. The sense of being in the presence of a large, intelligent creature that is equally interested in you as you are in it. Among all octopus species, the giant Pacific octopus has perhaps the strongest reputation for curious, even interactive behavior toward human divers. In places where they have become accustomed to human presence, such as the waters around Seattle, where they are a popular destination for recreational divers. These animals have been known to approach divers, explore their equipment with arms, and maintain prolonged visual contact. Experienced divers describe being checked out by giant Pacific octopuses, the animal moving slowly closer, raising and extending its arms to feel along a diver's wetsuit or fins, and then retreating when its curiosity was satisfied. The interaction is almost invariably described as peaceful, careful, and mutual. There is something remarkable in these encounters, a meeting across an enormous evolutionary divide, brief and wordless, between two kinds of intelligence that have nothing in common except, perhaps, curiosity. One of the most captivating and widely shared observations in recent octopus science involves giant Pacific octopuses, and octopuses generally, appearing to cycle through complex color and pattern changes while apparently asleep. Filmed in slow, quiet motion, the sleeping octopus pulses with shifting patterns, going through what looks remarkably like a dream. Researchers, including Dr. David Scheel at Alaska Pacific University, have suggested that these color changes during sleep may indicate the octopus is in a state analogous to REM sleep, the phase in humans associated with vivid dreaming. During this phase, the sleeping octopus's skin may be reenacting scenes from its waking life, hunting, hiding, exploring. Whether octopuses truly dream in any meaningful sense remains uncertain. But the image of a sleeping octopus, dappled with shifting light and shadow, its skin replaying the colors of the reef, it is quietly one of the most beautiful images in all of animal biology. The deep sea, generally defined as ocean water below 200 meters depth, is the largest habitat on Earth, and it is home to a remarkable diversity of octopus species. Many of these deep-sea octopuses are poorly known, discovered only from specimens accidentally caught in fishing nets or glimpsed briefly by remotely operated vehicles. Deep-sea octopuses tend to look rather different from their shallow water relatives. Many are paler, lacking the vivid coloration of reef-dwelling species. Some are gelatinous, with thinner, more translucent bodies suited to the cold and the pressure of the deep. Many have large eyes, adapted to the extreme low-light conditions of the deep ocean. The deep ocean is a quiet place, cold, dark, still, and very, very old. The octopuses that inhabit it are among the most mysterious animals on Earth, going about their lives in a world we are only beginning to understand. Among the deep-sea octopuses, perhaps the most charming and visually distinctive is the genus Grimpoteuthis, known colloquially as the Dumbo octopus. These animals get their name from the ear-like fins they use for locomotion. Two large, rounded fins that extend from either side of the mantle and flap slowly and continuously, giving the animals a gentle, floating motion that resembles, at least in popular imagination, the fictional flying elephant. Dumbo octopuses live at extreme depths, as deep as 7,000 meters below the surface, making them among the deepest dwelling octopuses known to science. They are typically small, pale, and soft-bodied, with large eyes and webbing between their arms. They feed primarily on worms and crustaceans that they find on and just above the seafloor, swallowing prey whole, a different feeding strategy from shallow water octopuses, which tear their food apart with their beaks. The extreme depth makes biting and manipulating food difficult. Swallowing whole is simpler and more efficient in that environment. Some deep-sea octopuses, like many deep-sea animals, are capable of bioluminescence, producing their own light through chemical reactions in specialized cells. This light production can serve various purposes: attracting prey, communicating with potential mates, or confusing predators. In the absolute darkness of the deep ocean, light is both precious and dangerous. An animal that can produce its own light has tools available to it that surface dwellers do not. But it must also use that light carefully, because in darkness, a glowing body is visible to everything nearby. The deep-sea octopus navigates this double-edged quality of light with the same quiet adaptability that characterizes the entire cephalopod lineage. learning over evolutionary time when to glow and when to stay dark. Despite centuries of marine biology and decades of deep-sea exploration, scientists are still regularly discovering new species of octopus. The ocean is simply too large, too deep, and too incompletely explored for our catalogue of its inhabitants to be complete. New species are described each year, some from remote shallow water habitats in tropical regions, others from the great unexplored depths of the Pacific and Antarctic oceans. Some are discovered from a single specimen, their biology almost entirely unknown. Others are found in large enough numbers to begin detailed study. Each new discovery is a reminder that the ocean still holds secrets, that the inventory of life on Earth is not finished, that there are still new kinds of animals waiting quietly to be found. The skin of an octopus is not merely a covering. It is one of the most complex integumentary systems in the animal kingdom. A multi-layered structure packed with photoreceptors, chemoreceptors, mechanoreceptors, chromatophores, iridophores, leucophores, papillae-forming muscles, and nerve fibers, all working together in real-time coordination. In a very real sense, the skin is itself a kind of sensory and expressive organ, not just a barrier between the animal and the world, but an active interface, constantly reading the environment and constantly responding to it. Some researchers have speculated that the skin may even process some visual information locally, without sending it all the way to the central brain, a kind of distributed visual processing in which the skin itself sees and responds. This remains an area of active investigation, but it speaks to how unusual and sophisticated octopus biology really is. The large, rounded or elongated structure that sits above the arms of an octopus is called the mantle. It houses the majority of the animal's internal organs: the gills, the three hearts, the digestive system, the ink sac, and in females, the reproductive system. The mantle draws water in through openings near the head, passes it over the gills for respiration, and then expels it through the siphon. In this way, the mantle is both a breathing structure and the power source for jet propulsion. When an octopus is calm and resting, the mantle expands and contracts slowly and rhythmically, a gentle, visible breathing. Watching this slow pulse, watching the quiet rise and fall of the mantle, is one of the most meditative things about observing an octopus at rest. The suckers that line each arm of an octopus can generate remarkable amounts of suction. Each sucker is a muscular cup that creates negative pressure when pressed against a surface and contracted, a mechanism similar to a rubber suction cup, but biological, active, and self-regulating. Large octopuses can exert substantial gripping force through their suckers. A large giant Pacific octopus, for instance, would require considerable effort to pull away from a surface it has chosen to grip. Its combined sucker strength can hold many times its own body weight. In addition to their mechanical strength, suckers also contain sensory cells, as we noted earlier, giving the octopus simultaneous mechanical grip and chemical sensing in every point of arm contact with the world. Like fish, octopuses breathe through gills, specialized organs that extract oxygen from water as it passes over them. The octopus has two pairs of gills located inside the mantle cavity, where they are protected by the mantle walls. Water is drawn into the mantle cavity through openings near the head, passes over the gills, where oxygen is absorbed and carbon dioxide is released, and is then expelled through the siphon. This continuous flow of water over the gills maintains the oxygen supply needed to power the octopus's active, energy-intensive body. In well-oxygenated water, this system works smoothly and efficiently. In low-oxygen environments, octopuses can become stressed and seek higher oxygen areas. Like all breathing animals, they are ultimately dependent on the quality of the medium they breathe. The digestive system of the octopus includes some interesting features, including a crop, a storage chamber where food can be held before digestion, and a cecum, which plays a role in absorbing nutrients from digested material. After the beak tears food into small pieces, the radula, the ribbon of teeth, grinds it further. Digestive enzymes from the salivary glands begin breaking down the food even before it is swallowed. By the time material reaches the digestive gland, a large organ that functions somewhat like a liver, digestion is well advanced. The whole system is compact and efficient, suited to an animal that may go without food for extended periods, during brooding, for instance, or during times when prey is scarce. One of the remarkable things about the octopus as a group is its global distribution. Octopus species are found in every ocean on Earth, from the warm tropical waters of the Indo-Pacific to the frigid waters surrounding Antarctica. They inhabit depths from the intertidal zone, pools of water exposed at low tide, to the deepest explored trenches of the ocean. This near-universal presence speaks to the adaptability of the basic octopus body plan. With modifications in physiology, behavior, and morphology, the octopus template has been able to colonize virtually every aquatic habitat the ocean offers. In the warm shallows of a coral reef, in the rocky crevices of a cold water kelp forest, in the soft sediments of an abyssal plain thousands of meters below the surface. In all of these places, some kind of octopus is at home. Tropical coral reefs support an extraordinary diversity of octopus species. The complex three-dimensional structure of coral, its countless crevices, overhangs, caves, and channels, provides ideal den sites and hunting grounds for octopuses of many species and sizes. On a single healthy reef, multiple octopus species may coexist, occupying slightly different niches. Some hunting in the open rubble zones, others hidden in the coral thickets, others patrolling the sandy patches between reef structures. Coral reefs are also home to the abundant crustaceans and mollusks that form the core of most octopus diets. In a healthy reef ecosystem, octopus populations can be stable and productive, their numbers regulated by the availability of prey and den sites. In the cold, nutrient-rich waters of the Pacific and Atlantic coasts, giant kelp forests, towering marine algae that can reach 60 meters in height, create their own rich ecosystems. Among the rocks and holdfasts at the base of the kelp forest, among the dense fronds and the dappled filtered light, octopuses find another set of ideal conditions. California two-spot octopuses, Octopus bimaculoides, are common residents of Southern California kelp forests, and giant Pacific octopuses inhabit kelp forests along the Pacific Northwest coast. The rocky substrate that anchors kelp growth also provides abundant den sites, and the kelp forest community supports plentiful prey. There is something particularly atmospheric about octopuses in kelp forests. The slow swaying of the kelp fronds in the current, the green gold filtered light, the octopus settled in a rocky crevice, waiting for evening. Octopuses are not merely residents of reef ecosystems. They are active participants in maintaining the health and balance of those communities. As mid-level predators, they prey heavily on crustaceans, particularly crabs, and mollusks, helping to regulate the populations of these animals and preventing any single prey species from becoming overly abundant. They are also a food source for larger predators, moray eels, sharks, large bony fish, and marine mammals, providing an important link in the food web that transfers energy from the reef's invertebrate layer upward to larger animals. When octopus populations decline, as they sometimes do in response to overfishing, habitat degradation, or environmental stress, the effects can ripple through the reef community in ways that are complex and sometimes difficult to predict. Because octopuses are relatively short-lived, produce large numbers of offspring, and are sensitive to changes in water temperature, oxygen levels, and prey availability, their population dynamics can serve as an early indicator of broader changes in ocean health. In regions where octopus populations suddenly increase or decrease, marine biologists often investigate whether broader environmental changes are underway. The short life cycles of octopuses mean that their populations respond to environmental shifts relatively quickly, compared to longer-lived animals like large fish or marine mammals. In this way, the octopus is something like a quiet reporter of ocean conditions, not deliberately communicating anything, simply living its life in a way that reflects the state of the world around it. As ocean temperatures rise due to climate change, the ranges of many octopus species are shifting. Some species are extending their ranges toward the poles, into waters that are warming to temperatures they can tolerate. Others are retreating from regions that are becoming too warm. Ocean acidification, caused by the absorption of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, is also a concern, particularly for octopus eggs, which appear to be sensitive to changes in seawater chemistry. Research suggests that acidified seawater can affect the development of octopus larvae, potentially impacting survival and growth. These changes are happening slowly, on timescales that are not always visible in a single human lifetime, but they are happening. The quiet world of the octopus is changing, like everything else, in response to the changing world above the surface. The octopus has been a subject of human art for at least 3,500 years. Among the most beautiful early examples are ceramic vessels from the Minoan civilization of ancient Crete, dating to around 1500 BCE, decorated with flowing, naturalistic octopus images that wrap around the bodies of pots and jars with remarkable elegance. These Minoan octopus vessels suggest not just familiarity with the animal. The Minoans were maritime people living on a Mediterranean island, but a genuine appreciation for its form and grace. The way the artists rendered the flowing arms and the large eyes suggests close observation, perhaps even affection. From ancient Crete to Japanese woodblock prints to modern scientific illustration, the octopus has continued to attract artists. Something about its alien beauty, its softness, its eightfold symmetry, its color-changing skin, seems to invite artistic attention across time and culture. The kraken, the legendary sea monster of Scandinavian folklore, said to rise from the deep ocean and drag ships to their doom, is one of the most enduring sea monster myths in Western culture. Various origins have been proposed for this legend, including the giant squid. But some historians and zoologists suggest that encounters with large octopuses may also have contributed to the myth. Giant Pacific octopuses and their Atlantic relatives can reach impressive sizes, and an unexpected encounter with a large, active octopus at close range, particularly by a fisherman in a small boat, could certainly be startling enough to inspire exaggerated retelling. The kraken, like most sea monsters, probably represents not a single animal, but a composite of real encounters with real large sea creatures. Encounters so surprising and so far outside ordinary experience that only the language of myth could contain them. In Japanese culture, the octopus, tako in Japanese, holds a particularly rich and varied place. It appears in Japanese art, cuisine, mythology, and folklore across many centuries. Hokusai's famous wood block print, The Dream of the Fisherman's Wife, created in 1814, is perhaps the most internationally recognized octopus artwork in history. A complex, dreamlike image that has been interpreted and reinterpreted across 2 centuries of art criticism. In Japanese cuisine, octopus is a widely consumed delicacy, featured in sushi, sashimi, and the popular street food takoyaki, which are small, round balls of batter filled with pieces of octopus and grilled on special pans. The octopus is woven into Japanese coastal culture in ways both artistic and practical. Scientists began keeping octopuses in laboratory settings for behavioral research well over 100 years ago. Their intelligence, manageability, and amenability to experimental manipulation made them attractive subjects for early studies of invertebrate cognition and neuroscience. Some of the most fundamental discoveries in modern neuroscience have come from studying cephalopod neurons, not from octopuses specifically, but from squid, whose giant axons, nerve fibers, were instrumental in developing our basic understanding of how nerve impulses work. This research, conducted in the mid-20th century, provided the foundation for virtually all subsequent neuroscience. The octopus's continuing role as a laboratory model organism ensures that our scientific understanding of its biology and cognition will continue to deepen. Every decade brings new discoveries that revise and enrich our picture of what the octopus is and what it is capable of. In 2015, scientists published the first complete genome sequence of an octopus, specifically the California two-spot octopus, Octopus bimaculoides. The results were surprising and, in the best scientific tradition, raised as many questions as they answered. The octopus genome is large and complex, containing approximately 33,000 protein-coding genes, more than the human genome. Many of these genes were entirely novel, not found in any other animal lineage, suggesting that the octopus has developed unique genetic machinery to support its unique biology. The genome also showed evidence of extensive RNA editing, a process by which the genetic instructions encoded in DNA are modified before being translated into proteins. Octopuses appear to use RNA editing to fine-tune their neural function in ways that other animals do not, potentially providing a kind of rapid, flexible adaptation of brain function that goes beyond what the genome alone can achieve. The RNA editing we just mentioned is worth a slightly deeper visit because it is one of the most intellectually extraordinary things ever discovered about any animal. In most animals, the genetic information encoded in DNA is relatively fixed. Small mutations occur over evolutionary timescales, but within an individual organism's lifetime, the genome is largely static. RNA editing introduces a layer of modification between the fixed genome and the proteins the body actually produces. In octopuses and other cephalopods, RNA editing appears to be unusually extensive and functionally important, affecting hundreds or thousands of proteins with particular concentration in the nervous system. Researchers have found that octopuses edit their RNA more extensively in cold temperatures than in warm ones, apparently adjusting the properties of their ion channels, the molecular machines that generate nerve impulses, to maintain proper neural function across a wide temperature range. The ability to rewrite your own biological instructions in real time in response to environmental conditions. It sounds like science fiction. In octopuses, it is simply biology. Octopuses have been used in maze learning experiments since the early 20th century, and they have consistently demonstrated an ability to navigate spatial challenges, remember correct paths, and improve their performance with practice. In classical maze experiments, an octopus placed at the start of a maze with food at the end can learn the correct route, distinguishing between correct and incorrect turns over a series of trials. Performance typically improves with repetition, suggesting genuine learning and memory formation. What makes these experiments particularly interesting is that the octopus is navigating in 3 dimensions, not crawling along a flat surface, as a rat in a maze does, but moving through water, potentially in any direction. The spatial memory required is correspondingly more complex. Research has found that individual octopuses tend to prefer using one eye over the other when approaching prey or investigating new objects, a preference analogous to handedness in humans. Since each eye is connected more directly to the opposite hemisphere of the brain, this eye preference also implies a kind of lateral brain dominance. Some studies have also found preferences in arm use, individual octopuses tending to reach first with a particular arm when investigating or hunting. These individual level asymmetries suggest that the octopus brain, like the human brain, is not entirely symmetrical in its function. The idea of an octopus that is, in its own quiet way, left-handed or right-handed, that has a preferred side, a dominant eye, a characteristic first move, is another small way in which the octopus is more like us, more individual than we might initially assume. In laboratory settings, octopuses can be trained to perform specific tasks in exchange for food rewards. Pulling levers, pressing buttons, pushing balls through hoops, and distinguishing between different shapes and symbols. They respond to positive reinforcement, learning that certain actions produce desirable outcomes, and adjusting their behavior accordingly. This trainability is both practically useful. It allows scientists to study their learning and memory in controlled ways, and philosophically interesting. An animal that can be trained is an animal that can model the relationship between its own actions and their consequences. It can, in a limited sense, anticipate. In some aquarium settings, octopuses have been trained to come to a specific location for feeding at regular times, suggesting they are also capable of some form of temporal awareness, knowing when to expect something to happen. The mirror test, in which an animal is presented with its own reflection and observed to see if it recognizes itself, is often cited as a measure of self-awareness. While the strict mirror test has not been definitively passed by octopuses in the way it has been by great apes and dolphins, some researchers believe that the test itself may be poorly suited to octopuses, whose visual system and self-concept, if any, may simply be very different from that of mammals. Some studies have found that octopuses respond to their own mirror images differently than they respond to reflections of other octopuses, suggesting some level of self versus other discrimination. Whether this constitutes self-recognition in any meaningful sense remains debated. The limits of our current tests may tell us more about the limits of our imagination than about the limits of the octopus. Measuring the consciousness of something so fundamentally different from ourselves requires tools and frameworks we are only beginning to develop. The veined octopus of Indonesia has been observed doing something remarkable. When carrying a coconut shell for later use as shelter, it rises up on two of its hindmost arms and walks bipedally across the seafloor, holding the shell in its other 6 arms. This bipedal walking, moving on 2 limbs, may make the animal more maneuverable when carrying awkward loads. The behavior has been captured on film and has been widely shared, both for its practical significance, as evidence of tool use and planning, and for the sheer visual delight of watching an octopus walk upright across the ocean floor. It is one of those moments where the line between familiar and alien seems to blur completely. A creature with 8 arms, choosing to walk on 2 of them, carrying a coconut shell home. One of the markers of genuinely flexible intelligence, as opposed to rote learning or instinct, is the ability to solve novel problems, challenges that the animal has never encountered in either its evolutionary history or its personal experience. Researchers have presented octopuses with novel puzzle boxes, new types of containers, and unfamiliar objects that concealed food, and found that many individuals are capable of solving these puzzles through what appears to be genuine exploration and experimentation, rather than simply applying a memorized solution. This transfer of problem-solving skills to new contexts, what cognitive scientists call generalization, is one of the more compelling pieces of evidence for flexible octopus cognition. The octopus is not just remembering what worked before, it is trying something new, applying general principles to a specific situation, finding a way. Despite their demonstrated intelligence and curiosity, octopuses are also notably cautious animals. Before entering a new space, approaching an unfamiliar object, or accepting a new food type, many individuals will observe carefully, sometimes for extended periods, before committing to action. This combination of curiosity and caution is, in many ways, a cognitively sophisticated strategy. Acting too quickly on incomplete information is dangerous. Waiting, watching, and gathering more data before acting tends to produce better outcomes for animals that are capable of using that information. In an octopus settling quietly at the edge of a new situation, arms slightly extended, eyes wide, mantle gently pulsing, there is something recognizably thoughtful, something that looks across all the differences that separate us, a little like deliberation. Beyond personality differences, individual octopuses appear to have specific preferences for particular types of food, for specific den locations, for particular prey species over others. These individual preferences, which are not explained simply by nutritional needs or availability, suggest something like personal taste. In aquarium settings, some octopuses consistently accept certain food items with apparent enthusiasm, while rejecting others of equal nutritional value. Some show strong preferences for particular enrichment objects over others. Some seem to enjoy interaction with certain keepers more than others. Individual preferences, the small, idiosyncratic ways one being differs from another of the same kind, are usually considered a marker of a rich inner life. We do not know the full extent of the octopus's inner life, but these preferences remind us that each octopus is, in some meaningful sense, its own particular self. For all the centuries of human observation of octopuses, the mimic octopus was not discovered until 1998, when divers in the waters off Sulawesi, Indonesia, encountered an octopus engaging in a remarkable variety of unusual impersonation behaviors. The species was new to science, entirely unknown until that observation. Its ability to mimic other animals was documented and described, and it quickly became one of the most widely discussed examples of sophisticated animal behavior. The discovery of such a behaviorally remarkable animal so recently serves as a useful reminder of how much remains unknown. The ocean is patient with its secrets. It does not hurry to reveal them. One of the more ethically significant developments in octopus research has been the growing evidence that octopuses are sentient animals, capable of experiencing pain, discomfort, and perhaps other forms of suffering. Their large and complex nervous systems, their demonstrated ability to learn to avoid painful stimuli, and their behavioral responses to injury all support this conclusion. In 2021, the United Kingdom's Animal Welfare Sentience Act was amended to include decapod crustaceans and cephalopod mollusks, including octopuses, as animals recognised as sentient under UK law. This was a significant step in the legal recognition of octopus welfare. This recognition has practical implications for how octopuses are treated in research laboratories, aquariums, and the fishing industry. It reflects a growing scientific and ethical consensus that the inner life of the octopus, while very different from our own, is morally relevant and deserving of consideration. The unique physical properties of the octopus, particularly its ability to move with extraordinary flexibility through complex three-dimensional environments, and the semi-autonomous coordination of its 8 arms, have made it a model for robotics engineers designing soft robots. Soft robotics is a field that builds flexible, deformable machines capable of interacting with the world in ways that rigid robots cannot, squeezing through tight spaces, gently manipulating fragile objects, adapting to unstructured environments. The octopus arm, with its combination of flexibility, strength, and distributed sensory capability, is considered an ideal model for this work. Research groups around the world are studying octopus arm movement and coordination, octopus sucker design, and octopus skin texture mechanisms in order to inform the design of robots that might one day work in medical settings, disaster rescue environments, or underwater exploration. The octopus as muse and model for human engineering. It is a collaboration across the species barrier and across the barrier between the living and the mechanical. The mechanisms behind octopus color and texture change have inspired researchers in materials science to develop new materials that can change color or texture in response to stimuli. These smart materials have potential applications in camouflage technology, optical displays, and soft robotics. Research groups have developed artificial chromatophores, tiny elastic pigment-containing cells that can be activated mechanically or electrically, mimicking the way biological chromatophores work. Others have studied the structural properties of octopus papillae to design materials with controllable surface texture. The octopus, which spent hundreds of millions of years quietly perfecting these systems on the ocean floor, has become an inadvertent teacher, showing human engineers possibilities they might not have imagined on their own. The existence of octopus intelligence poses deep and genuinely interesting philosophical questions about consciousness, experience, and the nature of mind. The octopus has arrived at cognitive sophistication through a completely different evolutionary pathway from vertebrate animals. Its brain is structured differently, its sensory world is different, its relationship with its own body is different. If consciousness, the quality of having subjective experience, of there being something it is like to be a particular animal, can arise from such different biological substrates and evolutionary paths, it suggests that consciousness may be more broadly distributed in the animal kingdom than we typically assume. Philosophers of mind and cognitive scientists who take octopus cognition seriously tend to conclude that the question of octopus consciousness is genuinely open, genuinely important, and likely to remain unresolved for a long time. We do not yet have the tools to look inside another kind of mind and know what it contains. Because octopus intelligence evolved independently from vertebrate intelligence, octopuses offer a unique natural experiment in the evolution of cognition. By studying what is similar between octopus minds and mammal minds, and what is different, researchers can begin to separate the general principles of intelligence from the specific details of any one biological implementation. What cognitive functions seem to require a particular kind of nervous system? What functions can arise from very different architectures? These questions, which the octopus helps illuminate, have implications not just for our understanding of animals, but for our understanding of mind in general, and, potentially, for the design of artificial intelligence systems. The octopus, moving quietly across the reef in the dark, is unknowingly contributing to some of the deepest questions in all of science. In the early and mid-20th century, as behavioral neuroscience was establishing its methods and frameworks, the octopus was among the key experimental animals used to understand the neural basis of learning and memory. Researchers, including Brian Boycott and John Young, conducted groundbreaking studies on octopus learning at the Stazione Zoologica in Naples, Italy, over several decades. Their work established many fundamental principles of associative learning in invertebrates and helped develop the conceptual tools that subsequent researchers used to study learning in many different animal systems. The Naples Marine Station, where much of this work was done, remains one of the oldest and most storied marine biology research facilities in the world. The octopuses that were studied there, in the warm Mediterranean waters of the Bay of Naples, contributed more to our understanding of learning than most of them will ever know. With a few intriguing exceptions, octopuses live essentially solitary lives. They do not form schools, pods, colonies, or groups of any kind. Each octopus occupies its own territory, maintains its own den, hunts alone, and interacts with other octopuses only for mating. This solitary lifestyle is consistent with a life history that has no need for extended social bonds. Octopuses do not raise their young. The female guards her eggs, but the larvae drift away immediately upon hatching. There are no extended family groups, no cooperative hunting, no long-term social learning that requires staying near others. And yet, as we have seen, octopuses are not cognitively simple animals. Their intelligence evolved in the context of solitude, for solving the individual challenges of finding food, avoiding predators, and navigating the environment, not for navigating complex social structures. It is a different kind of mind than ours, but no less remarkable for being quiet and solitary. Despite their generally solitary nature, researchers have found a notable exception a site in Jervis Bay, Australia, where large numbers of octopuses, specifically the Sydney octopus, Octopus tetricus, have been observed living in unusually close proximity and exhibiting complex, apparently social behaviours. This site, dubbed Octlantis by the researchers who documented it, showed multiple octopuses sharing a small area of reef, interacting with each other, chasing each other off, and engaging in what appeared to be social signalling through body coloration and posture. Whether this represents a genuinely social behaviour or simply a temporary aggregation forced by unusually high local prey, density, and den site availability remains debated. But the very existence of octopuses interacting in this way challenged the long-standing assumption that all octopuses are always strictly solitary. We touched on this earlier with the discussion of colour changes during sleep, but it is worth returning to. Octopuses appear to have active and possibly dreamlike sleep states, cycling through phases of relative stillness and phases of rapid colour change, arm twitching and eye movement. This is reminiscent of the REM, rapid eye movement, sleep phase in mammals, during which most dreaming occurs. If octopuses do experience something analogous to REM sleep, it would imply a kind of regular, internally generated experience that occurs independently of the outside world, a private inner theatre. The idea that a sleeping octopus might be experiencing something, replaying a hunt, exploring a remembered crevice, processing the sensations of a day on the reef, is one of the more gently captivating ideas in all of animal science. When a den is not immediately available, octopuses will explore their environment and evaluate potential den sites before selecting one. They do not simply take the first suitable space they find. They appear to assess options, considering factors like the size and shape of the opening, the quality of the interior space, and perhaps the presence of nearby prey. Den selection is not a trivial decision for an octopus. The den is where it will spend much of its time, where it will be most vulnerable, and, if female, where it will lay and guard its eggs. The quality of the den has real consequences for survival and reproductive success. Watching an octopus explore potential den sites, checking one opening, retreating, moving on, trying another, is watching a creature make a real decision about its life, in real time, in the way that matters. Octopuses are famously opportunistic in their choice of den materials. In environments where human-made objects litter the seafloor, bottles, cans, pots, ceramic jars, tire fragments, octopuses readily adopt them as dens. This has been documented extensively by divers in coastal areas around the world. An octopus settled into a beer bottle, or peering out from the mouth of a discarded plastic container, is a common enough sight in some areas that it has become a symbol of the overlap between human waste and ocean life. There is something both touching and sobering in this. The octopus, infinitely adaptable, makes a home in whatever the ocean offers it, even the detritus of human civilization. It does not judge the bottle or the can. It simply assesses whether the opening is the right size, whether the interior is large enough, and whether it will do. Despite their relatively small size and lack of the charisma that attaches to large, popular animals like whales or elephants, octopuses have become one of the most intensively studied groups of animals in all of biology. This is partly because of their intelligence. They are neurologically interesting, behaviorally complex, and cognitively surprising, and partly because of their biological uniqueness, their evolutionary independence, their unusual genome, their extraordinary adaptations. The literature on octopus biology, behavior, neuroscience, and ecology is vast and growing. Each year, new studies are published that deepen our understanding of what octopuses are, how they work, and what they are capable of. Each year, something new is discovered that changes the picture. To study the octopus is to study something genuinely alien and yet genuinely knowable. A mind that emerged from the same ocean that produced us, by a different road, to a different but recognizable place. Beyond Aristotle, the ancient Romans also wrote about octopuses with some attention and even admiration. The Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder, in his encyclopedic work Naturalis Historia, written in the 1st century CE, devoted several passages to the octopus, noting its intelligence, its ability to change color, and its use of tools. He described one octopus that reportedly learned to raid fish traps and then conceal itself to avoid detection. Pliny's accounts are a mix of accurate observation and embellishment, characteristic of ancient natural history writing. But the underlying observations, that octopuses were clever, adaptable, and capable of surprising behavior, were not wrong. Pliny was seeing something real, even if he described it through the lens of his own time. Octopuses inhabit not just the deep ocean and open reef, but also the very edge of the sea, the intertidal zone, where the ocean meets the land at the margin of the shore. In rocky tide, pools exposed at low tide, small octopus species can be found in astonishingly confined circumstances. Pools barely larger than a bucket, exposed to sun and temperature fluctuation. These intertidal octopuses are remarkably hardy. They tolerate wide ranges of salinity, temperature, and oxygen levels, conditions that would be lethal to many other marine animals. They can move between pools during high tide, and they are known to occasionally cross short stretches of dry or wet rock to reach a better pool. The sight of an octopus moving across exposed rock in search of a better tide pool, arms gripping the rock, mantle pulled clear of the surface, moving with quiet purpose, is one of the stranger and more compelling sights the seashore can offer. In addition to color and texture change, octopuses can also create optical illusions that make them appear larger or smaller than they actually are. By extending their arms fully and spreading the webbing between them, an octopus can dramatically increase its apparent size, a display used both to intimidate predators and to impress or warn rival octopuses. Conversely, by pulling their arms tightly together and compressing their mantle, octopuses can make themselves appear much smaller and less significant, a form of self-minimization that may help them pass unnoticed in certain situations. The ability to present oneself as larger or smaller, more or less threatening, more or less visible. This is a form of communication, a language of body size and shape that the octopus speaks fluently. In the rare instances where two octopuses are housed together in research settings, or in those unusual aggregation sites like Atlantis, observers have noted occasional behaviors that look, on the surface, like gentle physical contact, arms briefly touching, bodies resting close together without aggression. Whether this constitutes anything like affection or comfort in the way those terms apply to mammals is entirely uncertain. Octopuses do not typically seek out physical contact with conspecifics. They are generally solitary and can be aggressive toward each other. But the occasional observation of non-aggressive contact adds another small layer of complexity to the picture. The impulse to project our own emotions onto other animals is one we should approach carefully and honestly. And yet, equally, the impulse to deny any inner life to creatures that behave in ways that in us would indicate inner life is also a kind of error. The truth likely lives somewhere in the space between. The giant Pacific octopus, when it lays its eggs, produces one of the largest egg clutches of any animal in the world. Estimates suggest a single female can lay between 20,000 and 100,000 eggs in a single clutch. Tiny, translucent capsules arranged in dense clusters, draped from the ceiling of her den like strings of delicate beads. Each egg is individually cared for, cleaned and aerated over a brooding period of up to 6 months. The female rarely leaves her eggs unguarded for any reason. By the time the eggs hatch and the tiny paralarvae drift away, the female is typically near death, having used her own body as fuel for months of devoted care. 100,000 eggs, each one tended with equal care. It is a form of devotion that does not ask for recognition or return. When an octopus arm is detached, whether voluntarily through autotomy or through injury, the arm does not immediately go still. It continues to move, to explore, even to recoil from irritants, for up to an hour after separation from the body. This is because of the extensive local nervous system within the arm itself. The arm's own neural network continues to function independently, carrying out the reflexive and exploratory behaviors it was programmed to perform, even in the absence of central direction. It is a ghostly kind of animation, a disembodied arm still moving through the water, still reaching, still responding. This post-detachment activity is not purposeful in any conventional sense, but it illustrates perfectly the degree to which octopus cognition and behavior are distributed, carried not only in the central brain, but throughout the entire body. Following the detachment of an arm, whether through autotomy or injury, an octopus will regrow the missing limb over a period of several weeks. The regeneration is remarkable in its completeness. The new arm eventually matches the other arms in length, flexibility, and sucker distribution. Regeneration of this kind requires the activation of stem cell-like processes, cells that can divide and differentiate into all the specialized cell types needed to rebuild a complete, functional arm. The process is energetically costly, requiring significant nutritional investment. An octopus, in the process of regrowing an arm, goes about its life largely as normal, hunting, hiding, maintaining its den, while quietly, in parallel, rebuilding part of itself. The resilience is quiet and total, life insisting on its own continuation. Despite decades of deep-sea exploration, using remotely operated vehicles and submersibles, our knowledge of deep-sea octopus species remains fragmentary. Many species are known only from a handful of specimens, some from a single individual. The behavior, life history, diet, mating system, and habitat requirements of most deep-sea octopuses are essentially unknown. The deep ocean covers more than 60% of the Earth's surface. Even with the best modern technology, we have explored only a tiny fraction of it in any detail. The seafloor of the deep Pacific, the deep Atlantic, the deepest trenches and abyssal plains, these remain among the least known habitats on Earth. What lives there? How many species of octopus move through those cold and lightless depths? What behaviors they engage in? What inner lives, if any, they lead? These remain open questions, vast in their scope, patient in their waiting. We have traveled far tonight. We have visited coral reefs and tide pools, deep-sea trenches and rocky Pacific coastlines. We have followed octopuses into their dens, watched them change color, marveled at their 3 hearts and their blue blood and their donut-shaped brains. We have wondered with genuine openness at what their inner lives might be like. The octopus is, in many ways, a perfect emblem of the ocean's quiet abundance. The way the sea keeps producing life in forms that exceed our imagination, in combinations we would never have predicted, with properties we are still struggling to understand. In a world where we sometimes feel we know most of the important things, the octopus is a gentle corrective. It reminds us that the planet we live on is stranger, richer, and more various than we tend to assume. The ocean covers more than 70% of the Earth's surface. Most of it is dark, cold, and deep, visited rarely and explored incompletely. In that vast, quiet darkness, millions of octopuses are going about their lives right now, hunting, hiding, sleeping, dreaming perhaps, caring for their eggs, moving their boneless bodies through water with liquid grace. They were here long before us. Some version of their kind was gliding through Cambrian seas when the first animals were just beginning to experiment with complex bodies. They have survived extinctions and ice ages and the slow drift of continents. They have evolved in parallel with the entire history of vertebrate life into something that touches on the same cognitive territory as primates, by a completely different road. They ask nothing of us. They do not know we are thinking of them tonight. They are simply there, in the dark water, being entirely themselves. And there is something in that, in the existence of a creature so capable, so strange, so complete in its own quiet way. That is genuinely worth knowing about, worth thinking about in the last calm moments of the day, as the sounds of the world grow still and the mind loosens its grip on the things it has been holding all day long. Let's drift gently back for just a moment over some of what we visited tonight. We began 500 million years ago in the warm Cambrian seas, where the first ancestors of the octopus were just beginning their long experiment with tentacles and shells. We watched them lose their shells over geological time, becoming the soft, flexible, entirely boneless animals we know today. We visited the 3 hearts beating quietly inside each octopus. 2 branchial hearts, 1 systemic, pushing blue blood through a body that breathes through gills and moves through water on 8 suckered arms. We learned about the skin, that extraordinary organ, covered in chromatophores and iridophores and mechanoreceptors, capable of changing color in less than a second, capable of growing papillae that mimic the texture of rock or coral or sand, capable of receiving light directly, perhaps seeing without eyes. We thought about the distributed brain, 2/3 of its neurons living not in the head but in the arms, each arm a semi-independent thinker reaching into the dark. We marveled at tool use and jar opening and maze running and face recognition and play. We contemplated the blue-ringed octopus, small and beautiful and lethal. We followed the giant Pacific octopus through the cold Pacific waters and wondered what it dreams. We visited a female octopus in her den, surrounded by 100,000 eggs, fasting, tending, giving everything. We watched tiny paralarvae drift away into the open ocean and thought about the long odds of survival and the ones that beat those odds. We considered the question of octopus consciousness, gently, without certainty, with the appropriate intellectual humility that such a deep and unresolved question deserves. And we ended, as we always do, with wonder. Now, let the facts settle. Let the images dissolve into something softer. The movement of water, the slow pulse of a mantle, the colours drifting across a sleeping skin. You do not need to hold on to any of this. The octopus will still be there tomorrow, in its cold reef, or its warm, shallow tide pool, or its deep-sea ledge, going about its quiet life, entirely unconcerned with whether we remember what we learned tonight. All you need to do now is breathe. Let your body soften into whatever is supporting it. Let your shoulders release. Let your hands go open or stay wherever they are comfortable. Let your thoughts, if they are still passing through, slow down a little, then a little more. The day is behind you now. Whatever it held, the small frustrations, the larger worries, the things you said or didn't say, the things still on your list for tomorrow, all of that can rest tonight. It will be there when you need it. Right now, you don't need it. Right now, you can simply be here, breathing, still, like an octopus resting in its den, arms folded softly, mantle rising and falling, the ocean moving gently all around. There is something very old about this moment. The body at rest, the mind loosening, the day dissolving into the quiet that comes before sleep. It is something every living thing that sleeps has done, in one form or another, across hundreds of millions of years. You are part of that long, continuous tide. Let your breathing become a little slower. Let each exhale be a little longer, a little more complete. There is nothing to do with this breath, except let it go. The ocean is dark and deep and full of extraordinary things. The octopus is there, moving or resting, dreaming or not, alive in its own particular way. The world is large and strange and mostly unexplored, and tonight, you don't need to explore any of it. You can simply rest, let the colours fade, let the reef grow quiet, let the water be still. If you found tonight's journey peaceful and interesting, we would be so grateful if you'd leave a gentle like before you drift off, or subscribe so that future nights can bring you more quiet explorations of the world's most remarkable living things. There are many more journeys waiting, through the lives of other ocean creatures, through the quiet science of forests and rivers and the night sky. Whenever you're ready, we'll be here. But for now, there is nowhere else to be, nothing else to do. The day is done. Let yourself be carried on the slow current of your own breathing. Let the world grow soft and far away. Sleep well, dear listener. Good night.